Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the nature of everyday faith. And I'm not talking about those huge mountaintop moments or the dramatic conversion stories. I'm talking about the quiet, steady, day in, day out kind of faith that actually gets us through life. So, why is it that we so often expect our spiritual life to feel like some kind of epic highlight reel? Let's dive into that.
Here's the game plan for our chat today. First, we're going to look at our fascination, maybe even our obsession with drama. Then we'll see how that bleeds into our ideas about love, moving from passion to promise. From there, we'll get into the whole spiritual high dilemma, and then explore what faith looks like in the quiet, in-between times. We'll find out how it's sustained by something as simple as ordinary meals, and we'll wrap it all up with this really powerful image of an unbreakable bridge.
All right, let's start with our love for drama. What is it about big, emotional, totally unexpected stories that just pulls us in? It really feels like it's baked into who we are. And when you look at the actual definition of drama, it kind of gives the game away, doesn't it? It's all about the unexpected, the exciting. It's a collection of highlights, not the full, unedited, sometimes boring footage of a real life. Think about literally any movie you've ever seen. It shows you the big pivotal moment, maybe a tragic backstory, and then bam, a title card flashes up 20 years later. It just completely skips over all the school days, the boring jobs, the daily grind. We've been trained to focus only on the big turning points. But the truth is, most of our lives happen in that time that gets skipped. So let's bring this idea a little closer to home and see how it works in our relationships. The writer C.S. Lewis had some incredible insights into the difference between just a feeling and a real, lasting commitment. You see, there are really two kinds of love in play. You've got that initial, thrilling, butterflies in your stomach feeling of being in love. It feels absolutely all-powerful, right? But it's also temporary. It doesn't last. Then you have committed love. It's much quieter, it's steadier, it's intentional. It's more of a habit that actually grows stronger over time. And this quote just nails it. That initial passionate feeling, that's the spark. It's the thing that makes you want to promise forever. But it's that quieter, everyday choice to love, through the good days and the bad, that's what actually lets you keep the promise. See, one is an event, the other is a life. So you can probably see where this is all going. How does this connect to our spiritual lives? Well, it brings us right to what you could call the spiritual high dilemma, this tendency we have to chase the feeling of faith instead of actually living out its substance. So let's just pause here for a second. Do we do this? Do we treat our faith like a highlight reel? Are we always looking for that next big emotional peak? And do we get discouraged when our spiritual life feels more like that boring 20 years later part of the movie than the big dramatic opening scene? What's really fascinating is that this isn't just a theological idea. Even secular scholars of religion, like the psychologist William James, studied these powerful mystical experiences, and he found they all had a few things in common. They're hard to describe, they give you insight, but the big one for our conversation, they are transient. They don't last. By their very nature, they're meant to be temporary peaks, not some permanent state we live in. Now, let me be clear. Those emotional highs aren't bad. They can be incredible, powerful gifts from God. The danger is in our mindset. It's when we start treating worship like it's just a gas station to get an emotional battery charge. That way of thinking just sets us up for burnout because real faith is so much deeper. It's meant to sustain us long, long after those feelings have faded. This brings us to a really crucial idea, faith in the in-between. Even the biggest heroes in the Bible lived most of their lives in the ordinary, undocumented moments that we tend to completely ignore. Just think about the life of Moses. We remember the big moments, right? The dramatic escape from Egypt, the burning bush, parting the Red Sea. But what about the 40 years in between fleeing Egypt and seeing that bush? 40 years, just living a quiet life as a shepherd. The Bible is almost totally silent about this huge chunk of his life, which was really a time of quiet, ordinary preparation. And it's the exact same story with the Apostle Paul. We love to focus on his dramatic, blinding light conversion on the road to Damascus. But what happened right after that? Well, there was this silent decade, more than 10 years of quiet growth and preparation before he even started his famous missionary journeys. Real, lasting faith is forged in those long, quiet years, not just in a flash of light. Okay, so if faith isn't about chasing these spectacular highs,
then what actually sustains it? What keeps it going? This next metaphor, it's a beautiful way to understand the power of simple, everyday consistency. This idea comes from a man who was once asked if he thought sermons were useful, since, he couldn't remember most of the ones he'd heard. And he compared them to the meals his wife made for him. He said, he couldn't recall one single specific life-changing dinner from the last 30 years. But he knew with total certainty that the combined effect of all of those ordinary meals is what literally kept him alive and gave him strength.
30,000. Just think about that number for a second. The power wasn't in any single event. It was in the quiet, relentless, daily consistency. And that is such a profound truth. Real nourishment isn't some huge one-time feast. It's a process. It's the thousands of unremarkable moments added up that create an unshakable strength. And that's what regular prayer, worship, and devotion are. They're the ordinary meals that sustain our spirit.
And honestly, this should feel like such a relief. It is totally okay to not feel on fire for God every single day. In fact, that's normal. Just showing up, being present, taking part in those small, consistent acts of faith, that is the substance. That is what builds a faith that can actually last a lifetime.
And this all leads us to our final, and I think maybe the most important idea of all. It's about completely reframing how we think about our connection to God. We've all been there, right? That feeling that our connection to God is this thin, fragile little thread, and we have to desperately, white-knuckle, hold on to it. And if our grip loosens, or our feelings fade for even a second, we're terrified it's all just gonna snap. But what if we have the whole metaphor wrong? What if our connection to God isn't something fragile that depends on our strength, but something incredibly strong and solid that we can rest our entire weight on? And this is the heart of it all. That bridge is Jesus. It's not some flimsy line that we create. It is a permanent, sturdy, unbreakable structure that was built for us. It's what connects us to God, and its strength has absolutely nothing to do with how we feel on any given day. Our job isn't to hold on for dear life. Our job is simply to be on it. So what does that look like practically? It is beautifully simple. First, you just show up. Then you take one ordinary step of trust at a time. A prayer, an act of kindness, a moment of quiet. You don't have to worry about your speed. You don't have to sprint. And even if you stumble or fall or just have to stop and rest for a while, the good news is you're still on the bridge. You are safe. You are secure. You are connected. So this is where we'll end. The foundation is already there. The connection is already secure. Faith isn't about achieving some feeling or manufacturing a dramatic moment. It's about trust. You are already on the bridge. The only question left is, are you willing to just keep walking, one ordinary, faithful step at a time?